All right, well, the second painting I want to talk about, it's this painting by Ian Grant. I would say one of the reasons why I chose this painting is because Ian is a friend. I worked with him. We were side by side in studios for some years together in Annandale. And interesting thing, that I really liked about this particular show was that back in 2005, Ian and his wife, Ruth, assembled a few artists together to go up to St Albans to spend a week, 3 days, painting in the bush. And that was back in 2005, and there were 6 of us, and 7 of us rather, sorry. And what's interesting is that 4 of us are in this exhibition today. And we went several times back to St Albans, and that gave us the opportunity to obviously see each other, spend work with each other, really continuing in that very Australian tradition since the Heidelberg days, probably even before that, of artists going out into the bush and spending time camping and drinking probably too much red wine and talking and etc., etc. But so Ian was involved in that, and as I say, we worked side by side in studios, and he continues to be a friend. And what I like about these paintings is their sense of kind of silence. When he actually works, I know that he doesn't locate a particular scene and draw it in a kind of fastidious way. This image doesn't exist. You couldn't actually go out there and find this particular spot and see this particular landscape. You would see a very similar landscape to it, but the way that Ian works, he takes these photographs and as he says, he doesn't go to great lengths to get the most fastidious kind of focus photograph. He will just take photographs, come back, just print them quite casually and choose certain kind of images from them and assemble them onto his painting. And what I love about them is that they have this kind of, they remind me of the sort of the whole chronology of kind of Australian painting. When I think of the wonderful thing about the sort of the silence of the Australian landscape, we think about the melancholy, we think about the reflective quality of it, because all I think which occurs as a consequence of the immense kind of space. I mean, I was born and up until the age of my mid-20s, lived in the United Kingdom, and there the whole concept of landscape was very different. And whilst it has its own qualities, my first kind of introduction to this immense space and this infinite kind of horizon was a cliche, but something which really had a kind of profound effect. And I find that Ian seems to be able to describe that sense of infinity with that sense of the solitude that the landscape embraces. Something only the landscape can. Interiors tend to give us a sense of kind of comfort, a sense of security. Figure paintings give us a sense of somehow interrelating with somebody else. Still life becomes another kind of issue altogether, but the landscape makes us, I think, so acutely aware of our own selves of presence. And he paints different kind of skies, different atmospheres at different times of the day, all with a remarkable kind of understatement. And in that statement, less is more. I think it really does apply to this, that these kind of subtle suggestions of the sky just really give us this very sense of the breaking of kind of light, the fluctuation of atmosphere, and it's all there within this very understated yet very kind of powerful image and quintessentially Australian. Okay, well, this is appropriate that I should discuss this painting, as it's the one painting I think I've got any real authority to do, as it's mine. And I'll just speak a little bit about it. I have for some years been painting pictures of, not predominantly, but a lot of pictures, and my interest has been about painting gardens. Gardens in Europe, gardens in Australia, my own garden. I like very much that sense of kind of order and of a landscape actually being manicured and organised. And I've been doing that for some years, working in oil, watercolours, and large lino cuts, lino prints. And so I like a kind of nature. It's a sort of an 18th century concept of nature being ordered. If we think of sort of Capability Brown and taking a landscape and somehow organising it. And I alluded earlier to gardens that were made in medieval times that were enclosed gardens. And they were almost gardens like rooms. And I'm very interested in the notion of outside interiors and inside gardens. As Australians, we have that wonderful tradition of putting our furniture outside and bringing our plants inside. And I like that whole notion of the garden as an extension, as the outside room. However, this is a fairly recent painting, and I've been working on this theme for some years, of the organised garden and the organised landscape. And I actually wanted to paint a landscape that had that kind of sense of organisation, a sense of intervention, but yet was not necessarily a human intervention. So me going out into the sort of the bush in the middle of nowhere, as wonderful as that is, wouldn't actually probably excite me to the extent that I would want. And I've always been really interested in kind of wetlands, ever since I first arrived in Australia, partly because they're not something that you certainly don't see wetlands like this from the part of the world I come from, in Northern Europe. And these kind of mangrove swamps that I've been looking at and working from over many, many years, intermittently, had a kind of an interest to me because there is a sense of order about them. There's a very kind of strict sense of how these kind of mangroves grow up. These things pop up when the tide goes down, the kind of ecology that they support. There's a kind of a sense of, it's almost, without getting too sort of prosaic, but it's almost as if it's kind of nature's garden. The order is much more evident, I find it. The order is evident in this wetlands land environment, which really does interest me. Also, they provided the opportunity, I'm very interested in kind of Monet's water lily paintings, and I wanted a subject matter which enabled me to deal with kind of reflection, which enabled me to deal with this duality of actually putting the blue at the bottom, because it's simply reflecting the sky. And although there is a suggested horizon, I wanted this reversal, if you like, of where the sky actually, what we're seeing there is the reflection of the sky, and that's at the bottom rather than at the top. I like the duality, I love the interplay of reflections between when something actually is reality and something actually is a reflection. I found for these, the best time to get there was very early, when the tide was up and the sun was up, because there was a kind of stillness that really gave you a mirror-like kind of image within these actual reflections. The way that I work when I'm there, I just take a small sketchbook with me and I'll do quite tight topographical drawings and watercolours. And I'll take photographs. I'm not proud I use anything that will kind of assist me. And I use those things in the studio in order to then develop the image that I want. I'm quite fussy about what I actually select to paint. That's actually done on the spot rather than from the photographs. And obviously I'm quite concerned about not concerned, but I spend quite a lot of time trying to consider the composition, in order to simply give the painting its armature. And as I say, this is very much, it's about the reflection of the background, going through the water, something, as I say, that really interested me with Monet. It would have been ridiculous, though, to have painted like water lilies, because Monet's more or less kind of painter. He has painted the definitive water lilies, and they would always look rather like a sad parody. And yet, so these kind of wetlands, they are to me quintessentially Australian, and they did provide the opportunity to deal with the kind of issues through paint of reflection, of vacuous qualities, of atmosphere hopefully, and of the structure within the painting. They provided me with the opportunity to do that. Okay.